100 years ago, the first Studebaker car rolled off the assembly line in South Bend.
Studebaker helped settle the West. Studebaker wagons rode the Oregon Trail.
It was a moment that would change Michiana's path forever.
It's not the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon in South Bend, it's the 6 degrees of Studebaker.
The plant closed in 1963, but its influence is forever woven into Michiana's identity.
The auto industry in this area is so ingrained. It's kind of a magical thing when you come here.
The spirit of innovation still alive and well. From the RV boom in Elkhart County, AM General in Mishawaka, Tire Rack in South Bend.
We're doing a job that they just don't have the means to do.
To Carguys Auto Detailing in Osceola.
There's impact bumps, there's cobblestones, which you saw some of the pictures, had the cobblestones way back when.
And the Navistar Proving Grounds in New Carlisle. All of them owing a nod to the auto giant that came before them.
I like to give the Studebaker crew a lot of credit back in the day of having the vision to build a site like this in the 20s.
Right now, we're diving into the past.
They like to work kind of quickly.
The present and the future of Michiana. And how it's all connected to this once mighty company.
How are we going to control and access and monetize this new technology? Really not much different than what Studebaker was looking at 100 years ago.
We'll hear from history buffs, car enthusiasts, and industry pros.
Just tire noise alone is something that you won't ever forget.
And take you inside one of the best kept secrets in Michiana. Welcome to the Studebaker Connection, only on ABC 57 News. I'm Vahid Sadrazadeh. The name Studebaker has been synonymous with Michiana since 1852, when a pair of brothers from one family decided to go off to business on their own and ultimately change the course of history. Coming up here on ABC 57 News, over the course of the next 30 minutes, we take a look at the Studebaker Connection, the name, how it's lived on in Michiana, and the next wave, ultimately ushering in an electric era.
My grandfather, he worked at Studebaker pretty much his whole life. From when he grew up here in South Bend, he was son of immigrants.
The Studebaker bloodline runs deep.
You could see the Studebaker factory from their backyard, and so it was a really great sense of pride in his work.
Stories like COLIN CROWELs are often heard in local coffee shops in South Bend. They're shared over donuts between car enthusiasts in Osceola. A visual living proof those tales are passed on from generation to generation.
Look at Studebaker.
To understand their passion, we must interpret the past.
Studebaker was, at the time, a 2 men in a blacksmith shop in February of 1852.
Those 2 men were in fact brothers. Henry and Clem Studebaker settled in South Bend and opened a shop on the corner of Michigan and Jefferson Streets.
Eventually, the brothers' company grew to become the world's largest builder of wagons and buggies.
Andrew BECKMAN is an archivist with the Studebaker National Museum.
The railroad came right around the time the Studebaker brothers were opening their shop. You had the water power on the river, so really it was a tremendous incubator for a lot of industry.
Their famous carriages were shipping worldwide, even carrying multiple presidents. Business for the Studebaker brothers was already booming, but it was about to get better. In 1902, the Studebaker Corporation made a leap that would change the landscape of South Bend forever.
Studebaker was the only wagon maker to successfully transition to automobiles. That in itself would kill many companies.
To the contrary, from 1902 to 1920, the company built gasoline and electric automobiles.
Studebaker, like many others in the industry, was actually building their automobiles in Detroit, and automobiles were a relatively late arrival to the South Bend landscape under the Studebaker brand. It wasn't until 1920 that Studebaker began building cars in earnest right here in South Bend.
It was a century ago that the first Studebaker rolled off the assembly line.
You go back 100 years and the automobile had only been on the scene for a little more of a decade, but here Studebaker is throwing massive resources at building an automobile plant in South Bend.
Seemingly overnight, thousands of jobs were created. South Bend was growing rapidly, so much so that there was a housing crunch in the early 20s. The local connection even runs to Notre Dame's campus. Legendary Notre Dame football coach Knute Rockne took a part-time job in Studebaker's sales department in 1928. Studebaker also created a ripple effect with many spin-off industries taking off. In 1926, the corporation found a plot of land 10 miles outside the city limits and decided there would be a great place to test their newly developed vehicles.
I hear it all the time of people who visit who say, I had no idea that this place existed.
And for many years, people didn't. Over 800 acres tucked away behind skyscraping trees. A 3-mile oval featuring off-road testing. A hidden gem smack dab in the middle of farm country in America's heartland.
The Proving Grounds in my family goes back to even before I was around. Our asphalt business that my family owned, we were in charge of paving the oval that's out there.
Some of their most impressive groundbreaking designs came when their backs were against the wall and they were, really trying to reinvigorate and keep going.
In the 1960s, the harsh realities of a new car market were setting in. While General Motors was nabbing 50% of the market share, Studebaker was selling only at a 4% clip.
If you look at the company's history, they survived so many near misses over the years that many felt Studebaker would never go away. They always had another ace up their sleeve that they could play.
But on December 9th, 1963, the magic ran out. The South Bend plant closed, hitting the community hard.
Suddenly you had several thousand workers, some of whom had never worked anywhere else but Studebaker, realizing there's a dramatic change in their life.
CROWEL's grandfather was one of those workers.
And he worked there pretty much up until he couldn't walk anymore. From working in the factory to working as a night security guard. He was pretty much there his whole career, and that funded 4 kids.
The resilience of South Bend and its people would be evident over the next 50 years. They learned, they failed, and they learned again. And what that morphed into, nobody saw coming.
It's not the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon in South Bend, it's the 6 degrees of Studebaker. It might even be the 3 degrees of Studebaker.
Coming up next, leaning on lineage.
My dad's dad, he was in the asphalt business. If it wasn't directly with cars, we were paving the roads for the cars. He always had cars, always had boats, and I derive a lot of my passion from him.
A local car enthusiast following in his family's footsteps, connecting the past to the present. And later, a 3-mile test track in the middle of Michiana. We're taking you inside the Navistar Proving Grounds, which began as the Studebaker Proving Grounds 100 years ago.
Around South Bend, it was a family tradition. Everybody knew somebody that worked at Studebaker or Bendix or Oliver's or something.
The 6 degrees of Studebaker.
It's so ingrained in our culture here. It's not just a job. It's something that makes a difference in the customer's eyes and can really grow you on an emotional level.
One Michiana man with strong ties to South Bend's past is making a difference, one dab of polish at a time. Welcome back to the Studebaker Connection. I'm Vahid Sadrzadeh. It's been 6 decades since the last vehicle rolled off the assembly line here in the city of South Bend. But the lasting legacy of the Studebaker Corporation is still felt today. Offshoot businesses, clubs, car enthusiasts, Studebaker pride is alive and well. 8 a.m. in Osceola. Top down, hood open.
I love the heritage that it brings to South Bend. Drive this car around town and people's heads turn and they ask all kinds of questions.
On an early Saturday morning, this parking lot is already primed.
This is their mecca. This is the mecca for car enthusiasts and the home of where their pride and joys were built.
Wow. Studebaker helped settle the West. Studebaker wagons rode the Oregon Trail.
A chance for these car lovers to show off their classics and modified rides. Once a month, owners and onlookers gather here to relish the rare.
Well, I can tell you exactly where it started. I had a little Matchbox car. It's about yay big.
Colin CROWEL is the owner and founder of Carguys Auto Detailing.
Before I got a driver's license, I was detailing my first car in my driveway every other day in the summer. And I think really that's a lot of what sparked the passion for cleaning cars. And actually, for my 3rd or 4th Christmas, I was given a car wash. And there I am playing with a car wash, and fast forward 27 years, I'd be doing what I am today.
So this is where all the wash bay equipment is. So everything's right in front of us. We don't have to climb into the van.
In 2013, CROWEL started his own mobile detailing shop. Eventually, his clientele base became so big, he opened a physical location.
When we're doing an interior detail, we want to get all that dust out first. That way we are truly cleaning everything down to the bottom of the carpet pile.
The detailing process is precise.
Spread the compound here a little bit.
CROWEL still does the majority of the hard labor and heavy lifting.
And as you can see, that made a big difference. Just that one pass.
Spending hours and days making the imperfect impeccable. That commitment that CROWEL now delivers developed from family long ago. While one grandfather spent his entire career working at Studebaker.
My dad's side, we owned a service station there at Prairie Avenue on the west side. That was our original service station. Banco & Sons was right at the footprint of Studebaker. And so they were the first service station you'd see when you walked out of the gates. And they were right there on the outskirts, and my family had that for many, many years.
Learning from his past and still servicing his community, even if it is with polish and suds, instead of oil changes and tire rotations.
It's not just a job. It's something that makes a difference in the customer's eyes and can really grow you on an emotional level. I have customers that literally sit there in their garage and just stare at their car for, a couple hours as they're sitting there smoking a cigar and having a drink.
Those same customers also come here to Cars and Coffee in Osceola, or here to show off their Studebakers in downtown South Bend. One car at a time, CROWEL is connecting the past with our present and being the bridge to the future. The future for CROWEL certainly may involve a national franchise in as little as 5 years. Locally, he services these beauties behind me, but not only that, he details vehicles at an important and historical site just outside the city of South Bend.
The Proving Grounds in my family goes back to even before I was around.
Coming up next, paving a path.
3-mile, 3-lane oval, so really larger than any super speedway in North America.
A hidden gem with ties to the Studebaker Corporation, proving to be a link to the future.
I have a lot of memories out there watching the Studebakers come in for the every 5-year show.
Proving to be paramount.
Everything from bicycles to military tanks and everything in between.
Next, how a lot of land just outside South Bend may hold the key to Michiana's automotive future. Welcome back to the Studebaker Connection on ABC 57 News. I'm Vahid Sadrazadeh. It wasn't long after the first automobile rolled off the line, the assembly plant here in South Bend 100 years ago, Studebaker decided, let's build a plant and a site outside of the city limits to test our new vehicles. That site would prove to be key to the automotive industry moving forward.
1997. And we're out here at the Proving Grounds to do what?
Look at Studebaker.
That's right.
COLIN CROWEL remembers those days vividly.
I have a lot of memories out there watching the Studebakers come in for the every 5-year show.
One by one, Studebaker classics of every decade, making that left turn off State Road 2 onto the Proving Grounds to make ceremonial laps around its 3-mile oval.
The Proving Grounds in my family goes back to even before I was around. Our asphalt business that my family owned, we were in charge of paving the oval that's out there.
Long before CROWEL watched those parades and his family paved that track, Studebaker vehicles were taken there for a different reason.
Navistar, or International Harvester, has a long tie with the country as well, including the military. So in the military days, both Navistar and the Studebaker crew were able to expand and grow the enterprises for each company.
Now called the Navistar Proving Grounds, the history of this site dates back to 1926 when Studebaker built the track. At that time, it was the first ever controlled automotive proving grounds, a feat of modern engineering.
I hear it all the time of people who visit who say, I had no idea that this place existed.
And Studebaker wanted it that way, to test their vehicles in every which way without fanfare or publicity, hoping to get a jump on General Motors and Ford. Surrounded by tall trees, it was 840 hidden acres, just a few miles outside South Bend in New Carlisle, Indiana. Engineers would take their vehicles through mud, dirt, and water. They would take them over bumps, drive them sideways, test shocks, brakes, steering, and speed. They would even take them up steep grades.
Everything from bicycles to military tanks and everything in between.
Almost a century later, even though the names and types of vehicles have changed, the concept remains the same.
Everything that we have on the facility is really pre-production. So it's something that isn't in production yet, that they're here to validate, whether it be fuel economy, brake performance testing, or structural durability testing. So they bring their vehicles to this site to actually do the testing before it brings to production.
From 1966 to 2015, the grounds were in the hands of several companies, including the Bendix Corporation. And in 2015, Navistar Inc. purchased the remaining plot of land. Navistar manufactures commercial trucks, buses, defense vehicles, and engines.
It's a 675-acre facility that is used around the world to validate vehicles for both Navistar as well as many outside customers, because we run it as an independent proving grounds for the country. Really, our focus is on two areas from a strategic expansion perspective. One is electric vehicles that we talked much about, but the second piece is autonomous vehicles.
Today, these facilities are primarily used for heavy trucks, RVs that are made right down the road in Elkhart, tanks, military vehicles, and buses. Our crew was given an exclusive behind-the-scenes look.
3-mile, 3-lane oval, so really larger than any super speedway in North America. At any point in time, there'll be anywhere from a couple vehicles on the oval on a daily basis to 10, 12 vehicles simultaneously.
Inside the oval, crew's just finishing a multi-million-dollar resurfacing project, from testing autonomous braking capabilities to handling steering under dicey road conditions.
Or walk fast down, there's a good chance you could slip and fall.
Here, this surface is doused with water. As it gets saturated, it mimics pure ice on U.S. highways. But these smooth surfaces are just the start. The other side of the proving grounds has an obstacle course to put new vehicles and parts through their paces.
As it comes up on the corner, there's really 4 different lanes he can choose from. There's a gravel road, there's impact bumps, there's cobblestones.
We hopped in a school bus and trekked off-road.
Currently, we actually have 5 active electric vehicles on the property or in test, right? And those range from small buses to, full-size school buses. The other thing we do for Navistar is we do field testing. Field testing is beyond the utilization of the track. So in a lot of cases, we'll send vehicles down to Indianapolis and back, every night, 2 shifts a day, 5 days a week. In some cases, we open that up to 7 days a week. So we not only use the facility, there's 675 acres, but there's a lot of testing that takes place on Indiana's highways as well.
A Class A trailer is normally designed for 10 years or 1.2 million miles in North America. Simulations at the proving grounds roughly last 3 to 6 months. JACQUAY tells me that 6,000 miles on the durability course is equivalent to 1.2 million miles on the highways.
Safety is the most critical part of running the facility. So on a daily basis, there'll be some level of a safety inspection.
Needless to say, these tests are a necessity every single day. We've got 3 pre-production vehicles that have yet to be released to the public that they're testing right here at the proving grounds at Navistar. So I'm gonna hop in and I'm gonna test my hand behind this big truck here. This is a little bigger than the U-Haul.
I'm gonna rotate that to D for drive. Brakes are still on. The air brakes are off. Now you're good to go. Should drive just like a personal vehicle.
3 miles around one of the biggest ovals in North America.
White HX entering the oval.
Testing lane departure, adaptive cruise control, and many other important aspects in a 55,000-pound Class A trailer. What an amazing experience and what an amazing truck. What they're testing here will be so key on the roads, down the road, for not only these drivers, but the general public to know, and the companies that they work for to know what they're dealing with these vehicles when they get them out on the road.
The sensitivity of the data, right, is very critical. In a lot of cases, the companies don't want us to share information with the corporate Navistars. And we're using some of the latest and greatest and largest companies, especially when we talk about electric vehicles.
That could very well be the lasting legacy of the Studebaker Corporation.
I like to give the Studebaker crew a lot of credit back in the day of having the vision to build a site like this in the 20s, and for us to have the infrastructure in place to expand upon its capability even today to take us to the next level of vehicle validation.
A century after the first vehicle rolled off the line in South Bend, the Studebaker name, the brand, the lineage still carries prestige.
The auto industry in this area is so ingrained that it's kind of a magical thing when you come here, especially when you go out to the Proving Grounds or you see the former footprint of the Studebaker community.
You look at the old Studebaker land today, it's being rejuvenated as kind of the next thing for the next decade, the data. How are we going to control and access and monetize this new technology? Really not much different than what Studebaker was looking at 100 years ago.
Whether it's a work day at the test track, servicing our community,
It's efficient, it's effective, and we produce a great result every single time.
or preserving our history, the story of Studebaker lives on.
It's going to be part of our community. It's going to be part of that. And I think as people learn about our community and what we built here, it's going to be with us for many years to come.
As the Studebaker community celebrates 100 years since the first vehicle rolled off the line at the assembly plant here in South Bend, the museum is also showcasing the city through an exhibit. South Bend Then and Now will run until January 2021. We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Studebaker Connection. I'm Vahid Sadrzadeh with ABC 57 News.